obviously a strong finish. I know he gave credit to Scott Dixon and his comments after having those conversations earlier in the day. And he had a very emotional interview, which was really cool to see, how much he's learned and how much he's grown in that element from past experience. What do you know about their conversation or even Bubba's mindset going into this next week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about their conversation, obviously, but I found out about it when Bubba talked about it in his interview. But it's a big thing, and I think everybody in this room knows that they've gone into something knowing that they're not great at it, and it gives you anxiety. It gives you, you can easily, and if you make mistakes, we were running top 10, top 12 at Coda, and Bubba made a mistake and crashed. We made a mistake at Chicago and crashed. So now you've got all these negative connotations about what's going on, and now your whole season's on the line, and you got to step up and perform. It's really just about believing in yourself that you can do it, because I know Bubba can do it. We've tried to, we can only tell him so many times that we know he can do it. We've seen vast improvement in the Bubba on road courses from the first year we ran Cup to now, and I think that he gets caught up in thinking like, perfect example is this week we qualified 12th, which is really good, for Bubba, especially, at that place, we had been normally, mid-teens, maybe 20s. So now you go out there qualified 12th, and I feel like you think I'm hanging on for dear life. There's no way I can do that for 90 more laps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you don't realize that, and it's in your mind, you're telling yourself, I'm so bad at this that I am having to drive my ass off. I'm hanging on for dear life every lap, and these other guys, it's just easy for them. Well, in reality, it's not the case. They're hanging on just as much as you are. So once you kind of get that in, once you realize that, and you're like, oh, I'm not that much different than anybody. All I got to do is believe in myself and execute, and that's what he did yesterday. He went out there, and we should have finished a lot better than we did. We ran top 10 both stages. Unfortunately, we got in a deal on pit road where the 47 was pitted in front of us, and they were going to come up. We were planning on coming on lap 54. And we were, so that was our number. We're coming on lap 54. Well, then the 47 says they're coming on lap 54, which what's going to happen there is they're about, I don't know how many seconds behind us they were, but they're going to have to come around us and potentially block us in, or we would be crossing paths trying to leave the box. So we make the decision, we're going to stay out and run one more lap, let pit road get clear, and then come. Well, of course, Chase Elliott runs out of gas, stops in the bus stop. They throw the fastest caution I've ever thrown on a road course. And we missed the commitment line by, 5 car lengths. And instead of shaking out and running 6th to 7th or restarting 6th to 7th, we restart like 19th, or I think there's some penalties, so 16th. And Bubba does a good job to drive back up into top 12. And I think we ended up with the 7th most points in the day. But it's just that mindset of getting over that hurdle, and somebody like Scott Dixon can just tell you, like, you're being an idiot. Like, you are good at this. If you weren't good at this, you wouldn't be in that car. Like, get out of your own head and go out there and do what you know you can do, and that's what he did yesterday, and hopefully he can take that lesson and move forward. We have the Roval this year. We're going to have X amount of road courses next year.
Can we not have any road courses next year? I'm voting for 0.
Good luck with that.
Listen, let me tell you something. I see how everybody the races, and you text me yesterday, this is painful to watch. This is why we only had 2 road courses for 100 years, because they're not fun. Especially now that the cars drive so good that you can't even pass anybody. At least back in the day, you see how guys would make mistakes and drive off the racetrack and wheel hop and everything else. It doesn't happen anymore because it's.
But with road courses selling out pretty much almost
sell them off
every week, how are we ever going to change that? You can't.
Right? The Michigan sold out. We could do the same thing. If we go to all these other places one time, they'll sell out.
I don't know. Sell out's a loose term around here. Yeah. Let's be honest.
I will say that place was packed.
Camping.
Oh yeah, for
camping
sure.
was
that
sold
place
out.
doesn't have that place doesn't have a problem.
Always going to be packed.
Yeah, that place doesn't have a problem with it.
I don't think Indy wasn't sold out, was it? I don't think last week.
It was close. A couple 100,000 short.
But this is why
back-to-back road courses is hands down the worst thing that could possibly happen on this schedule this year. Please, dear God, don't do it again next year.
Here's a question I have for you, because I was looking at Gluck's poll this morning, and they were talking about this last night on Teardown. This race is trending to be about 40%. It was a good race. Last week was 70%.
I don't know what those 40% was.
But last week was 70. What would
Cinderella won the ball last week.
Right now it's 63% no,
Yeah.
37
Think about last week. You had one major factor, the most popular driver in NASCAR chasing a guy who's only won one race.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. I'm just
That's
saying.
a compelling win.
I'm just saying on the track, that race, yesterday's race and the other race.
Last week's race sucked just as bad as yesterday's race sucked. The only difference was Chase Elliott was chasing Michael McDowell for the race, and after running the entire race with only one caution, they were close to each other. Yesterday, once again, we ran the entire race with only one caution, and it was listen, I'm speaking to you as a race fan. I don't have a dog in this fight. The last two races on television, bless NBC's heart, they did a phenomenal job of making it entertaining. The racing was horrible.
But you said remove stage breaks, so you don't want any cautions. But
also stage breaks bring are people diving into the corner and wrecking each other. I mean, that's all the stage breaks really do.
Listen,
They also bring an unfair advantage because strategies create different strategies, right? Because we know when a caution's coming. So no, I'm all for no stage breaks still.
So just adjusting this, I think adjusting the length of the stages is what's going to help this if we're not going to have cautions. J.R. Houston, big fan of the spotters, big fan of our show, brought up a really good point on Twitter the other day in a thread if you want to go find him and read it. And we'll just take yesterday's race, for example. Here, we always talk on here about running the race backwards, which is what majority of us did yesterday. What running the race backwards means is we can run 36 laps on fuel.
We ran it forward.
And did you run it forward? Yeah, yeah.
No, we did actually.
But and you can. That's a different strategy. But and this is going to get a little long, but bear with me. So we can go 36 laps on fuel. So what you do is subtract 36 from 90, get you to 54. 36 from 54 gets you to 18. So now you're going to pit at lap 18. You're going to pit at lap 54. You're going to go to the end of the race. You're doing that because you're going to try to catch cautions. Well, the stage breaks yesterday are at 20 and 40. So what happens is instead of pitting at 18 to run it backwards, if you're in the top 10, you're going to run to 20, 21. And then, it's not that big a difference. It's really not a lot of decision making there because it's pretty easy. It's only 2 or 3 lap difference. If you just break it up in thirds yesterday, the race is 90 laps, you go 30, 60, 90. Now that becomes a bigger decision because now you're talking about pitting on 18 instead of 30. Now that's a big window to potentially catch a caution, potentially flip the field. So if you're going to run the race backwards and attempt to win it, you're going to pit at 18, you're going to pit at 54 still, but now you're forfeiting those stage points to do that. So I think if you adjust these stages to where it makes the decision-making harder, where I can't just run to the stage, pit, it's only 3 laps off my number, then I run to the next stage, it's easy, it's 40, I'm going to go to 50-something anyway. Like, if you make these guys have a harder decision about these stages, then you'll see more strategy. You'll see different shit happen. And if you do catch a caution, you're going to flip the field a little bit. And I think that's what, if we're going to stay with this no cautions, that's what we need to do. We need to adjust the stage. We need to break it up in thirds or you have the same information we have, NASCAR. Like, what the fuel windows are. Adjust the stages to make these guys make a decision. Am I going to race for the race win or am I going to race for stage points here? And you'll see some different strategies. And I think you'll make the racing at least a little more interesting.
It's time for one of two things to happen. We need a Gen 7A to be developed for short tracks and road courses, or we need to just go ahead and skip and go to Gen 8. Because I'm telling you, we went from road courses and short tracks being phenomenal and ovals sucking. We flipped the switch. Ovals are phenomenal, and the short tracks, and I'm sorry, I'm a short track guy. I love short tracks. And these road courses they're extremely hard to pass. And I have to say this, it's going to hurt people's feelings. The tire, the last 2 weeks, was garbage.
Well, I mean, traditionally, Watkins Glen has been one of in the last few years, has been the least amount of fall off in the series. And we saw yesterday, I don't know, did they ever get the left rear tire off the 14 car?
I think they're still taking it off right now.
So the left rear tire made it the entire race. Like, that's an issue. You know what I mean? Like, I know it probably didn't have the same speed it did maybe when it started, but it went the entire race. I remember back in the day, I would do some start and park Xfinity stuff, and they would run to the first stage or whatever because they knew that's all they could run. They can't run any further because the tires would blow out and they'd wreck their car. So, you can't have these things last forever and ever and ever. And
as a NASCAR fan, if I wanted to see this kind of racing, I would watch IMSA or F1.